Happy Wednesday, everybody. You already know what it is. It's the greatest show on earth. Ask AP Live. Come on in. Today starts an amazing month for the show. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. I am so glad that you all could come on tonight. Make sure you share this live. Tonight is so very important to me for so many reasons. Mental health is definitely a big, huge, important thing that I think a lot of people do not take seriously. And so this month I am going to highlight therapists that have been on the show tonight. I got my girl Markiesha on the show. She's actually my show therapist, the official Ask AP show therapist. Markiesha will be on tonight, and she's going to talk a little bit with us about our mental health and things that we can do when we're feeling some type of way. So if you know somebody that's suffering from depression, or if it's you, I want to make sure that you tune in all month, because I'm going to have some amazing therapists on the show to kind of help us, work through some things, because we all need it. We all need it. So come on in. Make sure you share this video. Markiesha should be joining us shortly. I want to show y'all some love. I see some new people on tonight. If you're new to the show, welcome. I hope something is done and said that makes you come back. For all of my people who are and have been looking at the show for the past few years, since 2020, actually. Oh my God. So I've been doing my live since 2020 or 2023. Y'all been rocking and rolling with me. I appreciate y'all so much for joining each and every Wednesday. And yes, I am waiting on Miss Markiesha. I told her to come on at like 9:02. So she is here. Markiesha is here, my girl. She don't be playing about me, okay? Hey, girl.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Set up good?
Yeah. So I'm using my daughter's ring light, and the adapter broke, so I'm propping it up. So
okay, take your time.
Okay. Am I clear?
You are clear.
Okay. Because I really only do these lives with you, so you special.
that bob is bobbing, girl.
Thank you. So look, I have this dry shampoo because when my hair get oily and in between appointments, I just spray it and then flat iron it. So it's so convenient.
Yes, it is. You give me your grown woman look right now.
Yes.
It's giving grown. So again, thank you so much. Oh, I had to tell everybody that you are my official show therapist.
Yay.
Yes. So when my show actually makes it to TV, we talk about this all the time. So when my show actually makes it to TV, because that's getting ready to happen. So when it happens, you'll be on like weekly, because I'll need you.
Okay, look. So let me tell you this random thing before we get started.
Okay.
So one of my friends, I met her through another friend. She texted me yesterday and was like, I had a dream last night that you had a private office in Oprah's yacht. I was like, what? And I don't know. I'm like, what? She was like, I'm just manifesting. I think great things are coming. I'm like, that's crazy that you had that dream. I'm like, I've been promoting this show. So I'm like, maybe you saw the flyers that I'm doing this show with AP. But I love it, even though I'm scared of it.
Oh, well, first of all, let me say this. I really, really, really love that for you. But Oprah cannot have you because you're mine.
I know.
She's going to have to get her own show therapist. She can borrow you from time to time, but she can't have you.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you so much, Markiesha, as always, for coming on the show. Like, you come on the show. This is like our second or third May. Is this the second? Is this
this is our second mental health awareness show, and then I did November for the holidays.
You did. You came on November. This is our second mental health awareness month, and so like it's so huge to me every May that I do the entire month geared towards mental health. And since you are the official Ask AP therapist, you have to kick off the show. So thank you so much. I know that you are super swamped. You got a lot a lot going on. Before we even get started, for real, I gotta say congratulations, because I saw my girl on the front of the Michigan Chronicle.
Yeah. Let me show you how to print out first.
Yeah, let's see you,
Because
girl.
I just had to go to the grocery store, right? And to make sure it was there. Wait. Let me show y'all.
Let me see, girl.
I gotta give you a copy for sure.
Yeah, I want one.
So this is me. This is like the front page.
There she goes.
And wait, let me show y'all.
I'm so happy for you.
I'm excited about that. Shout out to Lindsay. She is the one of the journalists that actually did the write-up. So, bam!
Yeah. Oh my, look at you. I'm so happy. You know what? This is like, I don't know like what it is that's going on, but like it's so many good things going on for like everybody. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just like, it's just that season. It's that season.
And I think that the energy is infectious. Like everybody, my whole circle, my friends, like everybody is just doing great things, and the energy is transferable, and like everybody that I'm around are doing great things. So I love it. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. So congratulations, girl, because that's a huge deal, and you have been working extremely hard. With just running your own business and just doing all of the things that you've been doing for your counseling. I mean, you've just been doing good work for so long, and it's paying off. And I'm extremely proud of you. I am.
Thank you.
I'm super proud to call you my show therapist and not Oprah.
Right, not Oprah, because you're going to surpass Oprah. Like, I foresee it. I'm manifesting it. Like, you've been very consistent, dedicated to your craft, and I see great things coming for you. You're already doing great things. So.
I really appreciate it. We are going to get started. So for those who don't know and may not be familiar to the show, or may not know who my girl Markiesha is an amazing woman. First of all, a mother, a business owner, and she is a therapist who has not only helped so many people on my show, but she's helped me through some crazy moments. We have like off the record conversations, and she is definitely one of the best. And I wanted to have her first on the show because not only is she my personal, my show therapist, but she's just someone that I know for sure cares and knows what she's doing. And by it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to get her back on here to kind of talk us through some things. So, Markiesha, I want you to talk a little bit about your background and how you got into therapy for those who are new to the show and joining in for the first time.
Okay, so for those who don't know me, my name is Markiesha. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I got into therapy. Well, a little bit about me. I own Restorative Minds Counseling, which is a private practice. It is about to be a group practice. So I'm actually in the process of expanding and hiring clinicians. So any limited license social workers that are interested in gaining some experience and just working in private practice, I will be doing interviews for that. I'm also expanding to Tennessee, so I don't know if you know about that, but
no, yeah.
So I
expanding to Tennessee. So you're not moving to Tennessee, right?
So yeah.
Don't be talking about so.
That's in the works. So yeah, but I'm my practice. I'm doing virtual therapy. So I also have my Michigan clients, and then I'm opening up to Tennessee as well. I actually submitted my licensure application April 19th, and they actually completed the review of my application. I got an email yesterday, so I'm almost there. So I'll be opening up services for Tennessee residents. But how I started into therapy, so I actually graduated from MSU with my undergrad and my master's degree. I got my bachelor's in criminal justice. I initially wanted to go to law school, so I did all of that. I was in James Madison at MSU. I was like, literally, thought I was going to go be in law school, but I ended up getting an internship, doing other things, and I'm like, oh, I'm interested in the criminal justice field, but more so like working with underprivileged and underserved youth. Um, and then I've been employed for the state of Michigan for like 12 years, working. I'm a program manager outside of just doing clinical therapy part time. So full time, I work for the state of Michigan in the Department of Health and Human Services. So I went back to get my master's degree in 2016 when my daughter was 1 year old. So for those moms who are interested in just, expanding and, going back to school and getting that education and getting that master's degree, you can do it because I did it with a 1 year old. So I went back, got my master's degree. In the midst of me going to school, I lost my dad in 2018. I know I talked about this on a show before, but there may be people who don't know, because that's kind of what prompted me to go back and get my master's, because I found out my dad was suffering from just struggling with mental health. He lost his mother when I was a young child. I think I was like 8, 9 years old, and he never really recovered from that. So me being a clinical therapist, I do a lot of grief counseling. But my dad ended up losing his mom, and I didn't know he was suffering in silence. Like he was on a lot of medication. He just wasn't himself. And like maybe a few months before he passed away, I saw some pills, and I know psychotropic medication. So I looked at the pills and I was like, what is this? Why are you taking this? And he didn't want to tell me at first, but then he opened up and was like, he never kind of got back right after he lost his mom. And so I found out like he was diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis. And that kind of really prompted me to really go back to school, because I'm like, how do I have family members, especially my father, who's been suffering all this time, and I had no idea. So I really wanted to kind of, work in this capacity with, individuals to kind of dive deeper to understand why. And in our community, we kind of don't talk about the things that are troubling us. Like we suffer in silence, and it really affects us. Like my dad passed away of a cardiac arrest. So he had a lot going on. He was depressed, struggling, and that often led to his demise. And I always tell people mental health is so important. It really affects every aspect of us. It affects our physical health, it affects our social health, it affects everything. And if you don't get right mentally, like if you don't check your mental health, it just messes everything up. And for me, it was more of a personal story. Like I'm like, this hits close to home. Like I really want to really kind of break that trauma, break those generational traumas, and make it okay for people to understand that it's okay to talk about what's bothering you. And we in the African American community, we always say, let's pray about it, leave it on the altar, like God gonna fix you. I'm spiritual. Christianity is my faith. I understand that. I do understand that that's key as well. But there are mental health professionals that are here to really help you, and it's essential. Like you need that. We go to the doctors, we go to the dentist, we take care of our physical health most of the time. Why don't we really, take care of our mental health in the same way that we do other aspects of our body and our well-being? So that's kind of what led me to doing therapy, is because it hit close to home for me.
So you talked about like suffering in silence. And I think a lot of us do that unknowingly. Like, we have things going on that we don't feel like we can talk about, or things that we want to share. Talk about, how to, like, what it means to kind of like get the help that you need. Like sometimes we feel like we can't talk to a family member or a friend because they won't, they won't really understand, but then we don't want to reach out to a professional because we feel like, oh, if I reach out to a professional, I'm crazy. You know what I mean? So what does that look like for somebody that may be suffering in silence? Like what kind of, information can you provide for them?
Yeah, so, and that's the thing. That's why I really want to talk about like those myths and debunking like those misconceptions, because we do think that, okay, you got to be crazy to go to therapy. But if you guys read the article that I did for the Michigan Chronicle, I talked a lot about the difference between the millennial generations and the generation under us, like Gen Zs, and how we are not suffering in silence as, the previous generations. Like, we are asking questions. We are, if something's not right, we're trying to figure out what it is. We the queens and kings of Google, like we self-diagnose our own selves. So to answer your question, I think that just being open and finding someone that you can trust, because a lot of times people don't want to go to a professional, and sometimes they don't want to share because of people judging them. So I can just, as a person who wants to support someone, like a friend or a family member, shy away from being judgmental when people are going through things. Be very careful with your words and what you say. A lot of times people don't understand, like, that what they say can really affect a person, especially someone who's suffering in silence. Like, your words are key, and you never know when someone's breaking point is, because a lot of times people don't share what they're going through. So I guess my tips is more so for people, and also people that are suffering, but people who, just as a friend, as a family member, allow someone to, give them that safe space. Like, if you find out that your friends are, like, there's a change in their behavior pattern. If they are not as social as they were before, if you notice they're quite, a little distant, it's okay to reach out. And I know sometimes people need their space, but really just tell them, just, I'm checking on you. Sometimes people just want people to know that they care. So, and then as far as resources, there are so many different resources that are out here. If you are ever feeling suicidal or feeling like that you want to harm yourself, like now they have a 3-digit number, just like 911, but it's 988. And that's the suicide prevention lifeline number. Previously, it was like an 800 number, but this is so easy to remember. It's 24/7. You can contact someone, that hotline. They can talk you through it, debrief of what's going on. But there are resources like at your fingertips. And what I like about our generation now is we're in a digital era. Like, there are so many things that are accessible to us that you can have, to support you in whatever it is that you're going through. There are support groups, there are workshops. I actually went to a workshop last week. It was at a church, and it's this lady called Miss Levine. She's like another mother to me, and she lost her daughter, I want to say about a year ago, and she had a nonprofit organization, so she kind of want to keep her legacy on. So she did a mental health workshop, and it was free to the public. It was, a lot of different resources there. So there are resources everywhere, especially in May. Like, May is one of those months where every week there's something going on. So if you are not at the point of wanting to speak to a professional, then check out some of these free resources that these organizations are doing. There's tons of things, tons of literature you can get to read up on. And when you feel that you have, you're ready to make that next step, then you can, you have the literature, you have the resources to kind of review and then go speak to someone.
So a lot of times, people are, going through things that they can't really, like, put their finger on. Like, they really don't know, like, how they're feeling or why they're feeling this way. So can you just break down to the audience what depression is? Like, what is depression? What does that look like? Because I think a lot of times, like you say, we'll go, girl, me and my sister were just talking about, we literally were just talking about this the other day, that when something is going on with us, we Google it. And I heard that I am literally, like, if you really Google something, like if you type in like something you're feeling, or like, it'll make you feel like you about to die.
Right.
I'm not gonna
Don't Google.
They'll be like, oh, that's a heart attack. You'll be like, oh, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? We were just joking about that. So I feel like a lot of times we don't know, like, we self-diagnose. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how we're feeling. So can you break down, like, what depression is?
Yeah.
For the people who may not know, you know what I mean? What it is?
what it is. I can tell you like the symptoms, what it looks like. So depression is a medical illness. It's actually a diagnosis. It's in the DSM-5, which is the manual that clinicians use to diagnose mental health disorders. It's major depressive disorder is one of the diagnoses, but there's multiple different DSM-5 diagnoses of depression. So in a nutshell, it's just how you feel, right? So a lot of the symptoms from depression is loss of interest, sadness, but some of those, like I want you to understand, like time frames is important when making that diagnosis. Like sometimes people are like, oh, I'm sad or I'm in a funk, but if you're in a funk for like a couple of days, that does not categorize you as depressed or having depression.
Right.
So, and a lot of times different life events can kind of trigger you to have depression, but what makes it depression is the amount of time you've been feeling this way.
Right.
So loss of interest, social withdrawal, if you feel like you, like one of those, you know, like I said, if it's been a change of behavior and you notice a friend or family member has not been coming around lately, check on them. Maybe they are going through a depressive state of mind. Loss of interest, lack of sexual activity, that can be a symptom of depression. Like you don't have the desire to do things that you were doing before. It's so many different things. Fatigue, like if you're sleeping too much or too little, those are different symptoms of depression. But you have to have experienced it like consistently for like at least 2 weeks. And then also if you've been feeling this way for over a year, it turns into something else. But if it's a consistent basis and you've been feeling like that and you can't get out of it, that is categorized as depression. Now, when you lose a loved one, a lot of times people will be like, well, I feel depressed. I can't get up. I can't do this. Grief is not part of the DSM-5 either, right? So you have to have been feeling those things and can't get over a death of a loved one for over, I want to say, a year. And that goes into prolonged grief disorder. But depression is the symptoms that I said: fatigue, loss of interest, social withdrawal, appetite, sleep. So whenever I have clients that are experiencing depression, I go over their symptoms every day. Every time we meet, I ask, what are your symptoms? My goal is to help reduce those symptoms, and we do a lot of different activities as it relates to that. And I'll get into a little bit of that later. But in a nutshell, that's what it is. So if you feel like that and it's been for a long time, like you can't snap out of it, then you may want to consult with someone just to see so you can get an assessment completed.
So we're talking about a year or more to like for people to for it to be a diagnosis of depression.
Well, you can. So when I get clients, we do 2 weeks. So in the last so a year or more turns into something else. It's something. It's not major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder is for 2 weeks. So at least 2 weeks you've been feeling a lack of sleep, fatigue, not eating too little, lack of your appetite has changed. Those are depressive symptoms, and it's for consistently for 2 weeks. So if you go to a clinician or someone, they're going to ask you in the past 2 weeks, how have you been feeling?
So a year or more, that's more so, what would that be? Because I do know that I know people who have been suffering a year or more. And you said that's something else. And of course, naturally, I'm sure it's a little more serious, but in these situations, and some of them may be watching now, in these situations, it's more so with grief.
Yeah,
so
the grief is different, but when you go to a clinician, they're going to rule out certain things. I get a lot of clients that are experiencing grief just because of my bio, what I talk about, how transparent I am. But some of those are ruled out because if you're experiencing grief and you have depressive symptoms, it sometimes cannot be depression. It can be you just experiencing that grief, and we have to go through that grief. But if you've been experiencing depression for a year or more, it's called persistent depressive disorder. So it's different from major depressive disorder. So when I ask clients like how long they've been experiencing this, if they said for years, then it turns into something else, persistent depressive disorder.
Okay, so these diagnoses, people have a really, and me too, I'm not going to say people, but I have a thing with like medication. Like I'm not getting on no medication.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, nah, cause I just, that's just not my thing. But for people who are experiencing that type of, that type of depression where it's like a year and longer, do you recommend medicine
No.
for these type of patients?
I can't personally recommend because I'm not a psychiatrist. So no, I do not recommend medication because I don't have the credentials to do so. So I'm a therapist and I don't I can't prescribe medication. Now I do psychotherapy. So you can be treated without medication. You don't have to have medication. And a lot of times people that have been experiencing depression for over a year, sometimes they just haven't sought, mental health treatment. They've been suffering like in silence. They've been feeling this way and they haven't been to a professional. So once you come to me, we do an assessment, and then I treat my clients with cognitive behavioral therapy. That's one of the modalities that I use. And just to give you a clear understanding of what that is, CBT, and it allows the client to understand how their thoughts affect their emotions and their feelings. So it's kind of like I provide diagrams of what that looks like. And we really start trying to shift that negative thinking into positive thinking. So everything starts with the mind. So a lot of the depression comes with your thoughts. Like if you're feeling depressed, a lot of time it's because you have negative self-talk. Like you're thinking, you're manifesting these things. You're talking negatively about yourself. You're thinking negatively. And when you start doing that, your emotions start following that. So if you have a negative thought process, then what does that mean? Like, what does your emotions be? Like, it's sadness. You're feeling, sadness, but disappointment, different negative, emotions. And then what happens with your behavior, right? Your behavior is affected. Sometimes people use substances to kind of cope with their depression or if their feelings. They do, like, they self-medicate themselves, nothing prescribed, but they go to negative coping mechanisms. So what I do with my clients, I try to do that shifting. So a lot of cognitive restructuring, like we do exercises on how to shift your automatic thoughts to positive thoughts. And why are you feeling this way? What is the first thing that you think of when you have this thought? How are you feeling? And then we start practicing. And this happens, it's not overnight. Like you have to actively do the work to try to shift your mindset. And that's what I do in therapy. So not medication. It's definitely treatable with psychotherapy.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing. When talking to people and telling them about the show, and they were like, I'm wondering if I would have to be, prescribed medicine, and I'm like,
but that is that's the myth, and that's why we're having these conversations, because people do not have the accurate information. Like people automatically think if you go to therapy, they're gonna prescribe you medicine. No, every therapist is not a psychiatrist, so we can't prescribe you medication. So we're going to treat you with psychotherapy, with the different interventions and modalities that we are trained to do to, to shift, to make you, feel better and to reduce your symptoms. And then a lot of the work that we do in sessions, it's like I give my clients like this little toolbox, like not physically, but when we talk about things in sessions, I give them helpful tips. And the real work is actually outside of these 60-minute sessions, right? So whatever you learn here, whatever resources and tips that you need and you learn to reduce your symptoms, you learn that in session, and then you apply it in your life.
Right.
So you have to be ready and willing to do the work once you decide to commit to therapy, because it's not just me talking to you.
Right.
Like you have to be able to apply the tools that I'm providing to you so that you can feel better about yourself.
So I wanna, since we're on, we're talking about depression. We talked about this before, I think last year. No, we actually talked about it when we did the show in November, because I was telling you that I didn't know that it was a real thing because I heard about it, and that's seasonal depression. I didn't know that seasonal depression was a real thing until I kind of figured I had it at one point. I was like, you know what? I'm just too freaking
Yeah.
emotional when the seasons change. Um, when it starts to get dark early and I look outside, it's 5 o'clock and it's pitch black dark. My body is feeling funny, and I was like, is this a real thing? And you was like, yeah.
It is.
So I just want you to talk a little bit about, people that may not know that seasonal depression is a real thing.
Yep. So the seasonal depression is a thing. It's also called seasonal affective disorder. So it happens when the seasons change. So typically it happens in more of the colder months, sometimes around the holidays. We talked about that last time when, it gets darker earlier, and that really affects us. And if you've noticed that this happens, like you're feeling depressed around the same time, and it's usually in the colder months, in the winter months, then that can be categorized as seasonal depression. So it's definitely something that's treatable. And then it's a lot of people really, I wouldn't say everybody has it, because it's not really it's not in the DSM-5, but it's something that is an issue that a lot of people may have. But it happens a lot around the holidays, in the winter. It definitely does. And it's something that is definitely treatable, but pay attention to when your mood starts to shift. And I talk to a lot of friends and a lot of different people, and they say, like, and myself included, I wouldn't say I feel depressed, but I'm not my happy-go-lucky self when it's cold and gloomy outside, if that makes sense.
Even now, like for the past, what has it been, like 5 or 6 days? It's been raining and cold every day for the past 5 or 6 days. And I've been feeling my mood be like, okay, like, when is it going to stop raining? Like, when is it going to stop being cold? Because here it is, May 3rd, and it's freezing outside, and it's literally been raining for like 5 or 6 days. And I've been feeling myself being like, like, don't want to be bothered, feeling restless
and all of that. Yes.
Fatigue. So I just wanted you to touch a little bit on, how the weather, you know what I'm saying, can kind of play on how we feel.
Yeah, it does. And then, in that type of, it can be treated. Like, you can light therapy, vitamin D, it's not something that is gonna have you feeling like this forever, but it's definitely something that is normal. A lot of different people experience that. And a lot of times people, and if you notice, people in Florida and Miami, like California, that be happy. That's why a lot of people be like, I want to go. In the winter months, people take vacations to more sunnier climates, because it is a little depressing when you're here. And then we talked, I think last time we touched on the change in the time. When it gets darker earlier, you're more tired, you're more fatigued. But it's definitely an extension of depression, but it's not something that is, is seasonal. It's based on your climate. And, talking to it, and I would definitely consult with a clinician. I'm not everybody's therapist, but, they'll assess you further to see if this is something that, you've had for a minute. Because we talked and you said you felt like this for years, right? Every season?
And I never knew what it was. Like, I just knew that, for me, I feel like I felt that for a number of reasons. Not because the weather changed, like, during the colder months, but just because during the holiday season, I have a lot of triggers during the holiday season. I have a bunch of them. And for the past few years, they have been they've gotten a little worse because, my grandmother passed away during the Christmas holiday years and years ago. My grandfather's birthday is December. And then, I had 2 siblings that also passed away. My sister passed away in November of 2019. So that was, I think she passed away a week or 2 before Thanksgiving. My brother passed away. So I have a lot of triggers during.
So yours
the
doesn't sound like it's just seasonal depression based on the climate. It's more about grief. And I talk about that with a lot of my clients that are experiencing like a loss of a loved one. There are
mm-hmm.
certain like days and, events, holidays that trigger their grief. And
Yeah.
grief is an ongoing process. Like it's not and it gets better with time, but around certain like birthdays and anniversary of deaths and
Yeah.
holidays, it gets really tough and difficult to deal with. And you could have lost your loved one 10 years ago and you still gonna those
Absolutely.
you're still gonna feel it,
Yeah.
during those important times. I know with my clients, I prepare them for those
Mm-hmm.
significant dates. Like if I know that there's an anniversary of their death, of their loved one's death or birthday, we do a lot of work around prepping for that day. And I
Wow.
have a client that lost her mother back in, I want to say it's almost coming up a year. So I believe it was
Mm-hmm.
like last May. So she actually started treatment like a couple months after that. So we start prepping for, those major holidays. So she literally just went through Christmas, her mom's birthday, and all of
Mm-hmm.
that without her mother being present. And now Mother's Day is coming up, so we're gonna have to prepare for that as well. But
I do
there are
that.
things that you can do to kind of make that day a little bit more easier. And
Mm-hmm.
it's normal to have those feelings, but be intentional about how you spend that day. I know when my dad passed away, the first year was the most difficult for me.
Of course.
So I literally planned my whole day to honor him or do things that's gonna distract me from actually feeling. I didn't want to sit in the house and mope about, his death. So I was really intentional about how I wanted to, honor him and how I was going to prepare myself for that. And that made it a little easier for me. So we do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different things. They do activities to honor their loved ones and things like that. And we talk about happy memories. But the grief is gonna be there. It's gonna come. So it sounds like your symptoms are more related to the grief as opposed to the actual climate change. I mean, the climate is normal. Like when it gets cold, yeah, you don't feel like you are in the best of the mood. You want to be in a house. You probably fatigued, but you actually to have seasonal affective disorder, you have to have the symptoms of major depression, major depressive disorder.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just be like, okay, well, I'm just not feeling it or whatever. You actually have to have the same symptoms of major depressive disorder, and it has to be around a certain time of the year that you're experiencing these symptoms to categorize it or diagnose as seasonal affective disorder.
So so tell me this. Do you and this is just your personal, this is just what I want to know because I definitely trust trust your opinion. Do you recommend for people who are suffering from grief? Do you recommend counseling to people who have lost loved ones? Like is that something that you would recommend for
I
them?
would recommend it if it's out of the normal grief, like if it's longer, like if it's a year or more and you are feeling like you can't get over the grief, like
Mhm.
because there's stages of grief. There's 5 stages of grief. If you have not yet got to the acceptance stage and it's been years, then yes, I do recommend grief counseling or therapy, because it becomes prolonged grief disorder at that
So
point.
So answer this. At that point, would it have gotten too far? You know what I mean? Like so say, someone had a loved one that passed away and they're just like they've been going through it like you would normally do, a mom, a dad, a cousin, sister, or whoever. Would I mean a year from now, do you think that it may have gotten too far where they should have gotten it in the beginning? You know what I'm saying? Because you're saying like if it's been over a year, of course you would recommend counseling. But would it do you have you ever seen a case where a year has been, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like now it's just bad.
Yeah. So honestly, no. So before I started my own practice, I worked with
Mm-hmm.
another clinician, and she told me that she had a client that he lost his daughter, but he didn't seek services until 20 years later.
Wow.
Like, So people go through the motions. Like, he kept going to work. He, like, you would have never could tell that he was actually suffering. So that's when I say grief. There's really no time frame, but when it gets to the point where it's affecting your daily life, then yes, that is like normal grief is like if like for you, like you lost your loved one, so around certain holidays you get a little down and out, but it's not affecting your livelihood, it's not affecting your daily life.
Gotcha.
That is normal grief. When it's around the holidays and you're feeling like that, you're missing your loved ones, that's normal. But when it starts affecting your daily activities, then that is when you need to seek professional help, because you cannot like get out of this. Like, you need to seek treatment. So normal grief activities or normal grief symptoms is okay. But when it's, like I said, when it affects your daily life, you can't get out of the bed, you don't want to be here no more. A lot of times people have guilt, and they think, I want to be with that person where he's at, like, having suicidal thoughts. When you get to that point, then yes, I do believe that grief counseling is essential.
How can we handle, some of these triggers and, from these traumas, like things that may be triggering to us? Can you give us some tips on, how to handle the triggers? I know, like for me, sometimes it can be, it's so crazy. Sometimes it can be a song, which is ridiculous, but it could very well be like a song or a TV show, like something, you know what I mean? That kind of be like, oh man, you know what I mean? So what are some of the things we can do to kind of, handle some of the triggers that may, get us in that, get us in that mind space?
Yeah. So first, understanding what your triggers are. Like, what
Yeah.
are some things that, would trigger this grief? Like you said, you identified that it's certain songs, but you probably wouldn't have known until you listen to that song. A lot of times people don't know what their triggers are until they're triggered. So identifying, yes, something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Triggers are important, like crazy. I know, for example, for myself, when I lost my dad, I could not drive past his place. Like,
See?
I would literally go to that Target over there. Like, I was always up and through that area.
Yeah.
And it took me over 6 months to, like, I avoided that freeway. I avoided that area. Like, and I know, and that's, I guess when I rode past it is when I got triggered.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't ever want to feel like this again. Like, it really brought up so many memories for me. Now I can drive past, his place and things like that. So, it, like, with time, it gets better, but understanding what your triggers are. And sometimes you have to put things in place to kind of allow yourself that space and that time so that you don't get into that, how you was feeling or bringing on these emotions. But sometimes it's also okay to grieve. Like, a lot of times people think they can't cry or they can't feel that way. Like, it's okay. Like, we are human. It's okay to let out those emotions and all of that. But I think that one of the things that you can do when you are triggered is to, identify what your coping mechanisms are when you get in that point. Like, that's really important. I do a lot of work with my clients on healthy coping skills. I had a client that, like I told you, who lost her mother. We talk a lot about her coping mechanisms, because when it's around this holiday, it's inevitable. You're gonna feel the pain. You're gonna hurt. You can't avoid it for too long. Like, it's gonna come. But what are you gonna do about it? So for her, she would do self-care. Like, so her and her mom, they would go get their nails done. They would go to the mall. Shopping was their thing. So she would do those things. She would do those healthy, happy memories. She has a favorite movie that her and her mom will watch. And, it could be triggering to other people to watch this movie. But for her, it put her in a happy place because that was a happy memory. So think about what those happy memories are. Like, what are some of the things that you enjoy doing with your loved one that you lost? And use that as a coping skill, go and do that. And that way you can think about the happy memories where you're not feeling as sad.
Do you, and I think we talked about this before. I think we had a really big laugh at this actually. But do you think that social media affects mental health? Like sometimes social media can be a trigger for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes social media can be a trigger for me. And when I know that, like if it's something that I just go, like I have to, and I do this a lot, and I don't know if this might help somebody, but this it helps me. I will literally like remove the app from my phone
Yeah.
just so they don't unknowingly go on there and click on there and be on it. Sometimes I have to like disconnect myself. And a lot of, my show is on social media, so I can't stay off of it for too
Mm-hmm.
long. But I need a break sometimes. And sometimes I literally just need to get off social media. I need to stop seeing things, viewing things, all of that. And so I'll take it off my phone. And I do it a lot. I really do it, like I said, one of my trigger months, December.
Yeah.
I know my
I
trigger month.
remember we had a whole text conversation,
Yeah,
remember?
I get off of social media in December, everybody. Like that's my whole I gotta go by type thing. I'm not on this year. I actually stayed on social media. I got off in December and I didn't get back on to February, I think.
Oh
I,
wow.
I took I took a longer time this time. I don't know why I was just kind of led to do that, but I took a longer time. But I'm usually off the whole month of December. So can you talk to us a little bit about, how social media affects your mental health? Because I think it does.
It does.
Me
I mean,
personally.
it's if you let it to. Like, you have to take breaks. Like we talked a lot
Yeah.
about that before. Like,
Mhm.
it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to put your phone down. A lot of
Yeah.
times with like I said, we live in this digital era. Everybody is on social media.
Mhm.
It also causes bullying, like a lot of cyberbullying is going on. The suicide rate is
Yeah.
increasing because of, people on social media because you can reach so many different people. Like if something goes viral, like so many people have seen it, and we are in a point where you can't put nothing on social media. Somebody has screenshot it. I don't care if you deleted it or what, but somebody has it. So it's very important that you understand what you posting on social media as well. If you don't want it
Mhm.
on there, you don't want nobody to see it, don't post it. But I think a lot of times people compare themselves to other people on social media.
Yeah.
And that's what causes them to have these issues or feel a certain type of way, or it affects their mental health. So sorry. I think that somebody just texted me and it just threw me off, but yeah, so social media is it's definitely important. It's important to understand and to limit your screen time. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna be completely honest. Like sometimes you need to. And a lot of times understand that people are gonna show you what they want you to see. So a lot of times people are feeling like, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be in life, or I should be so much further, because they're comparing it to what other people is showing you. And people are going to show their highlights for the most part. You do have people that are more transparent and are going to show you the process, but a lot of times people are not showing you their whole entire process. They're showing
Mhm.
you the glitz, the glam, and the end result, or they're, sometimes people fabricate. Some people become who they want to become on social media. So I get a lot of clients like millennials, Gen Zs, and they want this instant gratification because they
Yeah.
see these celebrities with all this money and glitz and glam, and they're like, oh my God, I need to be a millionaire like tomorrow. What real world are you living in? That's not
That's
realistic, right?
not good. Yeah.
So, but I like as my tips for social media, um, limit your screen time, and also do like a social media cleanse. Like I talked about that before.
Yeah, you did. That's good. Tell everybody what the social media cleanse
Social
is.
media cleanse is, pay attention to who you're following, like
Yeah.
what pages are on your social media. If you finding yourself feeling depressed or angry, or all these negative feelings, like start thinking. And when you looking at social
Mhm.
media, like who are these people, what are these pages, what are they offering you, like what type of value are you receiving from them? So like I have on my social media, I have a lot of like inspirational pages. I'm very big on energy and, whatever you're manifesting, that I don't want a lot of negativity coming into my spirit. So I did my own social media cleanse. Like, I don't follow a lot of negativity or negative pages or drama.
Right.
So, follow people that are inspirational and things like that. So if you're noticing that your mood is starting to change based on what you're seeing on social media, then like really go through, like do a social media audit. Like look at your followers, look at who you're following, and try to see, well, maybe I need to follow somewhere positivity, like things like that. And also give yourself breaks. Give yourself, a lot of times people be on social media all day, like be at work and be scrolling, waking up, going to sleep on social media. So really do a cleanse and see, who are the followers that you're following, and are they providing value to you? Are you feeling depressed? Like, how do you feel when you're looking at these pages? And it's okay to do that. I want to ask you though, when you did your but your hiatus, I should say, how did that, like when you came back to social media, like how did you feel?
You know what? To be honest with you, I didn't want to get back on it. I didn't want to get back on it because I was like, I was okay without it. Like, you know how some people, that they have to be on it. They don't even know how I feel to be off of it. But because I do it so much, like it could just be a random, I could wake up tomorrow and say, I'm about to get off of this for 7 days, or I'm about to get off of it until the next show or whatever. And I'll be okay. The longest I was off of it was when I went from December. And I think I didn't get on until like the middle of February. I did not want to get back on it. I was okay without it. What I really want to do, and I'm going to tell y'all, this is like a secret I'm letting out right now. But when I hired me, what happened? Oh, Lord. Something happened with our connection. Gotta love a live show. This is why my show is live, because stuff happens like this all the time. I love it. This is why my show is live. I love a live show. Anything can happen. And as soon as it was getting that good, the devil be playing games. I can't stand them. It's all good. Here we go. And we're back. I don't know. Let me get Keisha back on here. What is, we back?
Yes.
I'm read this comment.
Confused. What is the comment saying? I'm sorry. I got lost on here.
It's okay. Huh? I have no idea what that comment is saying, doing, meaning. I don't know. Anyway, so yes. When I get me a great assistant, when I'm ready to hand my baby over to somebody, I won't even, it'll never be me on social media. It'll never be me.
CJ, like, what are you talking about?
I'm trying not to laugh at CJ. CJ, stop it. We don't do negativity on this show. So if somebody come on here talking junk, y'all, we don't do that. Okay? That's not what my show is. This is not Wendy. It's not Wendy Williams. We don't do that over here. If I see something crazy, I keep going. So definitely I felt good about not being on social media for that little bit. But like I said, I'll randomly just jump off anyway. So I think that for me, that's a good thing. And I also try your cleanse. Remember, I was telling you before that I was following a lot of news.
Yeah, sorry.
I was following a lot of pages like news pages. Girl, I got off of them.
Yeah, because it's depressing.
some of those are even looking at the news, like in the morning. Every morning I would get up and I would look at the news.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I stopped getting up looking at the news before I leave out the house in the morning.
Okay, I can't read the comments and talk. Okay.
I was
trying to read the comments because somebody had said they wanted to ask a question. So I don't know if you saw it, but
oh yeah, I saw that. He didn't ask it, but I saw it. I don't read the comments. Because okay, no, I am gonna address this comment.
Who said nobody like God?
We don't like God. Are you kidding me? No, sir. That is so far from the truth. He doesn't look at my show, apparently. Because he wouldn't even say that to me. He wouldn't even say that to me of all people. He don't look at this show. So yes. So I want to get into some news that you have going on. So you're gonna be speaking at this huge mental health conference this Saturday. So for people who want to come see you and check out the conference overall and get some good resources, can you give us some information on where we pulling up at on Saturday? Where we pulling up?
I'm pulling up in Southfield. So it's gonna be at the Southfield Pavilion. It's called Therapy Talk. So it's a mental health conference. It's going to be from 10:30, 10 to 4:30. So it's kind of like an all-day conference. But there's going to be so many resources there. I'm one of the panelists. So it's about seven therapists, 7 mental health therapists that's going to be on a panel speaking. And then we're going to have breakout sessions. So the breakout sessions, I believe it's 5 of them. I want to give you, I can't look on my phone because it's going to log out. But if you guys go on my Instagram, I have the information on there, the flyer, and I believe the website is on there to purchase tickets. But it's going to be amazing. It's Angela Burgess is the creator of this conference. This is the 2nd annual conference. So she did one a few years ago. I want to say it was pre-pandemic.
Okay.
It was a success. And she's been working really, really hard on this conference. So I'm super excited to be there and to speak and, to answer any questions that anyone may have. But it's at the Southfield Pavilion, Saturday, May 6th.
Okay, so you're going to have to text me the information so I can come see you. I also want you to give the audience your information. Are you accepting new clients? Okay, so give them your information. If somebody, heard something today, they want to come talk to you, or if they know somebody that's struggling and they feel like you would be a good fit for them, can you give everybody your information?
Yes. So my social media is, if you want social. So I don't really like my clients following me on social media, but my social media handles is sweet_quiche, and then I have a business page. It's mj.millennial.therapist. But I also have a website for my practice. So it's myrestorativemindcounseling.com. So can I post in here or no?
Yeah, you can. Can you post on your side, or do I have to do it on mine?
It's a request. Let me post. I think I can type.
Okay. So yeah, just post that for us. Let everybody see it. And hold on, I'm just writing you a note really quick. If you guys can make it to the mental health conference on Saturday to see Markiesha speak, I strongly suggest you do. This girl is amazing. That is why she belongs to me and not Oprah. She is the Ask AP live show. She is my show therapist. I have hired her, and just before I get my money. When I get my money, when I get my money right, it's really gonna be over. But oh yeah, it's in here. Okay.
I put it in there.
You got it.
Yep. I wanted to leave you guys with some stats because I do like to do research, and I want you guys to be aware of what the mental health statistics and data looks like in our community, and why it's so important that we take care of our mental health. So you can find this information on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health. But this is from like 2020, 2019. So I don't know if they have any updated statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's have skyrocketed since the pandemic. But in 2020, the suicide was the third leading cause of death for Blacks and African Americans between the ages of 15 and 24.
Wow.
The death rate from suicide for Black or African American men was 4 times greater than for African American women in 2018. Black females grades 9 through 12 were 60% more likely to attempt suicide in 2019 as compared to non-Hispanic white females of the same age. Also, the poverty level affects the mental health status. So Black or African Americans living below the poverty level as compared to those are over 2 times the poverty level are twice as likely to report serious psychological distress. So I just wanted to kind of share those statistics because mental health is affecting our community drastically.
Wow.
And because it's such a negative stigma associated with mental health in our community, it goes untreated. And it leads to suicide, it leads to severe depression, it leads to a lot of different issues, also physical ailments.
Yeah.
Like if you're depressed, if you're stressed, it really affects our physical. It affects, especially when we hold a lot of our stress in our abdomen. It causes high blood pressure. It's important to really check with your mental. So I really want to share these stats just so that we are aware of how this is affecting our community.
Yeah.
Especially us our black men. They have so much that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Police brutality, a lot of different things that are affecting them, ourselves included, vicarious trauma, working in fields where you are seeing a lot of deaths, policemen, teachers, all of that. It affects us. And I think that it's very important that we try to get it intact. If you don't want to speak to a medical or mental health professional, then do your research and figure out ways that you can reduce your symptoms and get it together.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. I mean, just to hear that sounds crazy to me. Yeah. But I mean, it's things like that we need to know because, our people perish from the lack of knowledge. If we don't know it, then we don't know it, and then we just walk around and, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we're just not given the tools that we need. So I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you really knowing what you're doing. That's why I keep on saying that.
You gave me that title. No, I love it. Right.
And that's exactly what you are and who you are to this show, because you're not just coming on here and you're not just saying things. You know what you're talking about, and you really want to educate our people on issues that affect us. So I am honored to have you as my show therapist. I'm honored to have you back on the show. Of course, you all will be seeing more of Markiesha, because I'm telling you, I call her like, girl, I need you on the show, and she never tells me no. So thank you so much. I am looking forward to Saturday. Send me the information because I'm definitely coming to see you, and I hope everybody else is gonna come see her. Make sure that you follow her counseling page, so you all can get the help that you need. Somebody is asking something. How will you know if you're having a mental crisis versus just being overworked or burnt out? Yes, can you answer that?
Yes. So I guess the question would be, what would constitute it as a crisis? So when I think of crisis, I think of you're having a breakdown, like you are at the point of, maybe having suicidal thoughts or things like that. So if you are burnt out or overworked, that's something like I'll have to dig deeper. But if you are feeling suicidal, like you don't want to be here, like that's a crisis. And that would be, you need to seek emergency help. Maybe contact the 988 number, like I mentioned. But if it's like you're overwhelmed and just burnt out, like you're not to the point of leaving here, I wouldn't. That would be my discrepancy between a crisis and just overworked and burnout.
Thank you so much, Markiesha. I know that came at the last minute, but thank you for answering the question. And definitely, I'll see you soon. I'll see you Saturday.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
you.
Oh
Have a
yeah.
good day.
See you later.